We are grabbing our study guides and maybe our travel plans today because we are diving deep into Montreal.
Mm.
When you assess major North American cities, you usually look at hard metrics, tax rates, transit, bond ratings. But for Montreal, you asked us to analyze something, well, far more intangible: joie de vivre.
The joy of living.
Exactly. We've got these fascinating sources that treat this specific cultural vibe, this deep-seated quality of life, as the city's greatest economic asset.
Which is a huge claim.
It is. So the mission today is to figure out, how do you actually quantify something like that? And how does that concept translate directly into justifying, massive multi-billion-dollar municipal spending?
It's a really remarkable case study. I mean, Montreal confirms its unique position in the Canadian landscape by achieving this rare balance.
It's not just about culture, then.
Not at all. It's about merging that strong, celebrated urban culture, that very joie de vivre, with some extraordinarily ambitious, long-term infrastructure planning. What we're seeing here is a complete, dynamic, virtuous cycle at play.
And this deep dive will reveal how that actually pays off.
Exactly.
And before we get into the nuts and bolts, get this. Here's a detail that immediately flips the script on what we think drives urban success.
Okay.
Are these sources really saying that service efficiency and the award-winning bike network are cited by residents as greater assets than affordability itself?
That is the staggering finding from the MTL blog reader survey. It tells you that quality of life and, reliable, high-functioning urban services are viewed as the premium.
So it's not just about the cost of living.
Not primarily, no. If the foundational systems work, if the snow disappears quickly, if mobility is seamless, people are willing to place a higher value on that than simply having lower absolute costs. This citizen perception is what the sources call an excellent barometer.
Okay, so let's unpack that perception. The survey asked residents what truly makes the city special. And while joie de vivre came first, what were the practical things cited right alongside it?
It was a unique cocktail, really,
Yeah.
where the romantic meets the highly practical. Yes, the cultural ease is key. But immediately following that were the tangible services.
Like what?
The efficiency of municipal operations, and specifically snow removal, was singled out as being superior.
Snow removal,
Oh.
which is the absolute test of urban resilience in Canada.
Right.
And then the third asset cited was the active mobility network, so the bike paths. It's fascinating that the fundamentals of just movement and maintenance rank so highly.
It confirms that people are valuing quality of life over just simple cost savings.
Mm.
And this appeal, this cultural magnetism, it isn't just good PR. I mean, it's driving hard economic metrics. This high quality of life is the engine of sustained demographic growth.
And the scale of that growth is just immense.
It is. The sources show the growth is heavily fueled by immigration. The international migratory balance in 2024 was estimated at around 158,600 people choosing to move there.
Wow.
So if people are voting with their feet because they love the life, the municipality has a really clear mandate to maintain and invest in the life they love.
Right. The argument being, this demographic explosion justifies colossal spending. So if growth is the engine, let's look at the financial commitment Montreal has actually made.
Okay, and we're talking about colossal long-term investment. The city's 2024 to 2033 10-year capital expenditure program, the PDI, it totals nearly $24 billion.
$24 billion. That's a serious bet on the city's future.
A very serious bet.
And this brings us to the famous Montreal joke, the ubiquitous orange cones and the potholes, the symbols of ever-present construction.
The orange cone is practically the unofficial municipal mascot, yes. But our sources flip that narrative entirely. The cones are the direct, visible result of that political commitment to invest massively in things you often don't see.
Like what's underground.
Exactly. Water, sewer, and road networks. They are not letting the city decay.
So the temporary annoyance of constantly driving around construction is actually proof of long-term economic stability. That's a powerful reframing of a pretty common urban frustration.
It is. When you see that road reconstruction spending alone was $566.5 million in 2024, you realize the seriousness of that commitment. They're making these huge investments while trying to balance the current financial pressure on residents.
And speaking of maintenance, we have to talk about snow removal again. Why is it such a point of pride?
It goes beyond just clearing roads. It's cited as a source of pride and resilience because they clear streets, sidewalks, and crucially, the dedicated bike paths quickly and completely.
And that's not just for comfort.
Not at all. It ensures safety and, importantly, the continuity of economic activity during those harsh winters, which is vital for a city built on dynamism.
That makes a lot of sense. And, speaking of economic balancing acts, while these investments do require higher taxes, the sources noted that the 2024 residential tax increase limit was 4.9%.
Right, which is actually kept below the observed inflation rate.
So that feels like a very calculated political decision.
It is. They're prioritizing aggressive investment while ensuring the immediate cost burden, relative to other rising costs, remains manageable. It's all part of that sustainability model.
Let's shift now from, concrete and pipes to the era of culture and mobility. How has urban planning successfully capitalized on Montreal's natural cultural strengths?
Well, the cultural effervescence is legendary, particularly in the summer. The Jazz Festival, just for laughs, or Chigane, this concentration of events attracts millions. It's a huge stimulus for tourism and the local economy.
The city is just built for public celebration.
It really is. And that dynamism requires sophisticated movement.
So how successful has the city's push for sustainable transport been?
Extremely. I mean, it's achieved globally recognized innovation. The Montreal Bike Network was named the best for a major North American city.
And the BXI bike sharing service.
The BixI service, its adoption was recognized by Time magazine as one of the best inventions of the 21st century. So this is mobility not just as an amenity, but as a defining civic success story.
What's fascinating here is how active mobility networks translate into hard residential benefits. It's not just about reducing congestion, is it?
No, it also enhances property values. Our sources highlight that neighborhoods near well-integrated sustainable transport options see a direct financial benefit. Building this infrastructure fundamentally changes the appeal and the value of a neighborhood.
Okay, so let's move to the real social glue, the unique elements that anchor the city's identity and attract all that global talent.
And this circles us right back to the core idea of joie de vivre. It's often linked to a perceived superior work-life balance, sometimes attributed to its European influence.
And that perception is a real factor in attracting labor.
A non-negligible factor, absolutely. But it's not just the high-level cultural events that people celebrate. The survey respondents, they praised the hyperlocal flavors.
All right, the specific styles of smoked meat, the bagels from Saint Viateur and Fairmount, the public markets.
And critically, the ubiquity and utility of the dépanneurs.
It's fascinating that the sources elevate something as hyper-local as the dépanneur to such a critical success factor. For listeners who haven't experienced them, what defines a dépanneur?
They're the ubiquitous, utility-focused community corner stores, but they're so much more than just shops. They're daily anchors. They're essential because they foster local exchange, they support neighborhood commerce, and most importantly, they create a strong sense of belonging. That feeling of being rooted in a specific neighborhood is a huge factor in, residential stability and happiness.
So if we step back and synthesize everything from the snow removal to the bagels to the $24 billion commitment, what does this all mean for the model of urban development?
It means Montreal has perfected the virtuous cycle.
Okay.
A deep, embedded culture of quality of life, that intangible joie de vivre. It fuels dynamic population growth, which is exactly what the city wants.
And that growth, in turn.
That growth provides the demographic and economic justification needed to support massive, sustained municipal investment in modern, high-quality infrastructure and services. The city is essentially investing in the very things that make people want to move there in the first place.
It's an incredible model for any city looking to grow responsibly. But this overwhelming success, this extreme attractiveness, it must create new pressure points.
It does. The strongest challenge, and it stems directly from its desirability, is housing affordability.
Of course.
The strong demand, fueled by this overwhelming attractiveness, all those people moving in, is causing housing costs to inflate. And rapidly.
That's the ultimate stress test. If you create the perfect place, can you keep it accessible to everyone?
Precisely. If you create a place that is too desirable, you risk pricing out the very people and the very local flavors in corner stores that created the unique culture in the first place. That is the tightrope Montreal has to walk.
So that leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to mull over. If Montreal's success is entirely defined by its ability to merge culture and colossal investment, how can the city manage the inflation of housing costs caused by its own overwhelming attractiveness, ensuring that all citizens, not just newcomers, continue to benefit from this unique recipe for urban success? We'll leave that one with you.